It's been a while since I've written anything related to the Disney Corporation, and I'm sure you can understand why. A lot has been going since my last post. I've received a lot of questions and concerns from folks who read my first-hand account of Mowgli's Palace, a resort that was built and abandoned by Disney. I want to thank everyone who mirrored my post. It's been taken down from a few places, mostly corporate sites that were easily leaned on by a larger power. However, for every new topic or disturbing blog post, it seems like 100 have popped up. This is something they'll have to face. There's no turning back for them, none for me either. I'm definitely being followed. For the first month or two, I chalked it up to paranoia. Any casual glance or half smile in my direction sent me off. Hairs standing on the back of the neck and everything. The first one, or rather the first one I was actually able to spot, was a telephone worker milling around my apartment complex. He was middle-aged, Dorothy, uh, dressed just as you expect, but something just seemed off about him. I couldn't place it, but I knew this wasn't just my imagination acting up. He was awkward and out of place, not somebody who was comfortable doing his routine job. I followed him around a corner, only to lose him there. When I turned back to go home, there he was, staring directly at me, about 10 feet behind me, expressionless and cold. Exploring, he asked. There, that was all he said, and there was an accusing tone to his voice. Tell me what blue collar phone jockey does that. I guess that's the worst part. Never feeling safe, never feeling alone. That and the occasional Disney merchandise left somewhere for me to find. Little rubber Mickeys in the mailbox, a Disney Adventures magazine on my bookshelf. They hide little Mickeys everywhere, three circles, one big, two small, and the silhouette of the famous mouse's head. I've started keeping a running list of Mickeys I found. Coffee cup rings on my coffee table, one big, two small, colored glass bottles left on the doorstep, viewed from the top down, all red, graffiti on the wall on my way to work, a huge earth, small sun and moon in the proper locations. They're everywhere. People have emailed me about this as well. If you repost anything, I have to say, you're going to start finding those son of a bitch outlines, I guarantee it. The best one by far, one that actually made me laugh because of the horror of it all, was a drawing in chalk next to my car. I was taken aback at first, walking through the parking garage, keeping an eye out for people following me. The outline seemed a perfect match for, well, a murder victim. You're probably familiar with if you read my past posts, written in yellow paint. I'm sure was a single word. Retract. The only good thing that has come out of this is that I know I'm not the only one who's seen something they shouldn't have. I'm not going to give their names because, well, if I have to tell you why, you haven't been paying attention. Researcher goes to Disney parks wherever he can. All throughout the year, he's not going to have fun, enjoy the rides, etc. He's looking for the gaskets. There's been a long tradition apparently of people reporting strange patrons throughout the park, silent, motionless, staring patrons of every age, shape, and size, men and women, adults, children, and teens, all wearing Disney-themed gas masks. Way back when Disney would get tons of complaints about oddly dressed folks following others around the park, folks who would then merge into crowds and disappear. Later on, the gas mask caused folks to draw other conclusions and reports of possible terrorists and bombers started flowing. All of these reports most likely went straight into the trash can. I know I can't find any sign of any such occasions reported on by the media, although you should be aware of the fact Disney can pretty much control its press like no other. Researcher goes to the parks, talks to a few people, and tries not to draw any attention to himself. He will just ask 3 or 4 families if they've seen his friend who's wearing a funny mask. He has yet to see a gasket for himself, though on one occasion a child pointed him toward the frontier down as he raced through a crowd. He heard a single voice ahead cry out, "Mommy, I want a goofy air mask too." A fellow I'll call lifeguard worked on in a Disney water park from 2001 through 2003. He stood at the top of a huge water slide and made sure none of the kids got too rowdy. He passed the kids the through one at a time, telling them over and over again to be safe, keeping their arms in, and so on. One day, as he tells it, this fat kid goes down the tube and doesn't come out the other end. He sent 2 or 3 kids after. The whole thing moves at a steady clip, so naturally you expect that if Fatty got stuck, the kids that followed him were stuck too. Not so. Only the big kid appears. Everyone else comes out the other end, cheering and splashing like nothing's wrong. Lifeguard shuts down the slide, much to the aggravation of the kids waiting. Before he can go through any of the Disney strict procedures, splash, Fatty finally comes out. Staff members pulled the fat kid out of the water. He sank like a stone when he hit, his skin already blue and his eyes wide. All he would say was, "No face, kids," and "Stop squeezing." The kid was okay, in case you're wondering. He got carted right off to the medical center when a lifeguard was told to open the slide back up. He made a big stink about how it clearly wasn't safe. Despite his complaints, he was threatened with a firing and begrudgingly opened the slide again. From that point on, he kept a closer eye on the kids. Every so often they'd come out in the wrong order. Never as stunned as the fat kid, but always was a vague look of concern, a dreamy stupor that seemed as if they were trying to figure out what was this reality. They'd take on some water and choke a bit, and they'd never come back up to the ride again. I read his emails with the same sort of unease you might be feeling right now. I want him to share his own story, but in the end, he didn't want to expose himself that way. I can't say I blame him. Snow White, which wasn't the actual role she played, was a character in the park. She had a nice little tidbit for me. You know what happens when a costumed employee drops dead in a suit. Like 1 second he's taking a picture with little Jimmy, and the next he's had a fatal stroke. A second costumed mascot in the area as to sit with the corpse on a curb or bench and wait for a designated dry cleaner to arrive and cart the body away in a discreet manner. All the white patrons have no idea they're sitting with a dead body or for photo ops. Feel free to check your photo albums at this point. That was bad, but another fellow janitor went completely off with of the creepy carts charts. Disney World and probably others is built with a series of underground tunnels just below your feet. 3 stories worth. Anything and everything you can imagine is down there for use of the employees. They're called utilidors, utility corridors. Basically, that's the reason you don't see a character out of place or janitors wandering through the park. They pop in and out of hidden doors and travel a concealed town you're walking on. Janitor told me something that might be a common knowledge, but was nonetheless news to me. Walt Disney had several apartments built into his parks. There's one above Cinderella's castle. There's one in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. They're all over the place. More than that, there are nightclubs, a movie theater, a bowling alley, and much more. All behind doors built right into the whimsical facades you passed by without a second look. Club 22 is one such hidden area. If you have the cash to join the exclusive club, you don't, then you'll have access to it and much more. Club 22 is a place where anything goes. Disney Co calls these places dark zones, spots where the squeaky clean vestige of Mickey Mouse gives you away to drinking, drugs, and yes, sex. Conversely, the rest of the park is the bright zone with a few gray zone utilidors between. As far as Janitor has said, it wasn't always the way. It was more of a slow decline and the gradual relaxation of social norms within the elite group. The reason he knows all of this, you may have already guessed, he's cleaned it. After a lengthy background check and non-disclosure form, Janitor moved up from the park attendant, no one of the Dark Zone cleaning crew. Now, before you get some satanic human sacrifice vision in your head, Janitor saw nothing of the sort. Lots of empty alcohol bottles, yes, used condoms scattered like deflated New Year's balloons. Oh yeah, he cleaned up his share of blood, piss, and vomit. And it was all down to the unrestricted behavior of patrons as opposed to any sort of cult behavior. At least that's now he sees it in retrospect. And that trash, that profane shit, went into a furnace and mingled with the smoke of quaint cottages' chimney. If you've been to Disney World, you've breathed ultra condensed sin. Backing up this information was Hammer. Hammer mailed me the old fashioned way through, I don't know, he got my home address. He sent me photocopies of work papers proving his employment with the instruction to burn them when I was convinced, which I did gladly. Hammer worked around the Disney World Park doing demolition and construction. At one point, he approached a superior regarding some strange construction plans. There was a wide rectangular area marked off on the blueprints, about the size of a supermarket. The area was left unnamed, and only one bore the words, "Do not dig." The only was Not only was the superior in the dark, but he was super fucking purposely in the dark. He didn't want to talk about it, didn't want to know about it, and ended the conversation with, "This place intentionally left blank."